Today on The Report, updates from the mass subway shooting in New York.
Plus, Biden's new ban on ghost guns and what that means for Americans.
And finally, commencement news for graduating Titans. All this and much more. The Report starts now. Hello, I'm Kris Adler in for Jessica Gonzalez.
I'm Marisa Flores.
And I'm Amanda Mendoza. Follow us on Twitter at The Report CSUF or on our Titan TV Instagram at Titan TV CSUF to keep in touch with us and view our new content. 62-year-old Frank James, the prime suspect of the subway shooting in Brooklyn, was arrested last Wednesday for setting off smoke bombs on a train where he shot a firearm 33 times, resulting in 29 passengers being injured. Officials say James was arrested after he called in a tip to Crime Stoppers and gave his location. The shooter said he saw on the news that he was wanted before disclosing that he was at a McDonald's and was arrested a block away from the restaurant. James will be charged in federal court, facing multiple counts that could lead to a life sentence if convicted.
Well, in response to the subway shooting, the Biden administration quickly responded with strict gun policies in mind. New gun regulations will be put into effect, but it's not what you think. Last Monday, President Biden announced a new set of rules to regulate the purchase and use of the typically untraceable firearms, called ghost guns. Ghost guns, also known as privately made firearms, or PMFs, are self-made firearms from kits that can be purchased online and require no background checks or serial numbers. The new regulations will require the same background check of a typical firearm purchase and the inclusion of a serial number on the parts within a kit or on already assembled gun by sellers. The rules come due to a rise in gun violence since summer of 2020. So ladies, with these ghost guns, in 2020, the Los Angeles Police Department recovered 813 ghost guns from the street. And then in 2021, they recovered nearly double that amount at 1,921. There are actually gun shows in the Midwest that sell these ghost gun kits and require, like I said, no background checks whatsoever. All they require is that you have the amount of money needed to purchase them. And they even say it takes in an hour about the same amount as an IKEA kit for furniture that you can put it together yourself. And as you said, Amanda, with James, he had been arrested 9 times prior to this incident happening. The gun he used was purchased in 2011. So just thinking about these ghost guns that, like I said, need no background check, thinking about James, who was involved in that shooting, and what could have been done if they just took a little bit of a deeper look into his background, it could have been avoided. But what do you guys think?
I completely agree with you, Marisa. This whole situation could have been avoided. And I also think it's really important to talk about how gun deaths, excluding suicides, have risen in 2021. And in fact, there were actually 20,726 in the U.S. in 2021. And also notably, this is the highest recorded annual total by the Gun Violence Archive. So actually, with what Biden's doing, I completely agree with this proposition. I will always say this enough. I think they could still do more to completely ban guns or heavily restrict guns here in the U.S., but at least it's a start, ensuring that people won't have access to ghost guns, at least we restrict who gets access to ghost guns. I think hopefully these situations can be avoided more often.
Restricting the access to ghost guns is definitely a necessity. We have to do, even if it's small steps, we have to take those steps to try to figure out a way to control the gun issue in America. Is this going to solve all of the problems? Probably not, but it's a step. And really, I think, Amanda, last semester we covered how many school shootings, like 3 or 4 different school shootings. And the question was, what do we do? What does America do about the gun control issue? You know, the conservatives think that there's always some kind of infringement on their rights to bear arms. And really, I think that Democrats don't want to do that. We just want to control the mass shootings. So what does that look like, though? What does it look like? What do we think we can do? What is the clear-cut answer? Is there a clear-cut answer here? I really don't think so. It doesn't seem that way. No. So let's hope that the officials who can make a change will start putting these changes into effect. Now, on the COVID front, mask mandates have been dropped, but the Biden administration is still pushing for masking within public transportation. This past Monday, Florida's federal judge Catherine Kimball Mizell rejected the mask mandate under Biden's request, raising the question and argument as to whether masks prove to be sanitary or as valid to the prevention of COVID in its current status and future cases. Despite the rise in COVID cases and this ruling by Judge Mizell, the CDC's mandate for wearing masks in vehicles of public transportation is no longer in effect. Many airlines stated that masks are now optional for passengers, and many jet setters could be seen on video celebrating the mandate restrictions being lifted. Judge Mizell also asserted that, quote, the administration violated the Administrative Procedure Act, which dictates the procedures the federal government must follow when implementing certain agency policies, end quote. Many have voiced their concerns that the judge is focused solely on the legalities violated instead of whether this masking mandate is necessary for public transportation. So we're seeing COVID is calming down a bit. Where we have a lot. We can go indoors now without having the restrictions of the masking, the mandates. But do we feel that on transportation, public transportation, this is a necessity? And I'm really happy to see that even here on campus, the masks have been lifted for those of us who've been vaccinated. We've gone through the process, and it's nice to have that. But I also feel there are people who are still vulnerable. And I feel it is our public duty to help protect those people who are vulnerable, who are confined to public transportation, who don't necessarily have the luxury of private transportation. So maybe, wearing a mask on public transportation is probably a good idea. And also just to protect ourselves from other illnesses that may not be COVID related. But I think as a public duty, just to say, hey, look, we've got your back. It would be prudent of us to wear masks on public transportation just to protect those who can't help the situation that they're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, the number of COVID cases is going down, but I think what I'm really concerned about is the vaccination rates, because I think that's where it starts. Yeah. I think that's the ultimate act we could do in order to protect those around us. I think by getting fully vaccinated, getting fully boosted, there's a barrier that you put up. There's that protective wall that you put up when you're around others, and you can still wear your mask. So I think with these COVID cases going down, personally, I don't mind if people don't wear a mask or not, but like you said, it's because I know I'm fully vaccinated. I don't have any underlying conditions that put me in a dangerous position if I were to contract COVID. But like that being said, it's not over. There's a lot of variants going around. So of course, I think if the number of cases rise, I think we need to stay on our toes. And I think, like you said, we as a people have a duty to protect those around us. So we should be willing to adapt to these guidelines that are set before us, whether that be on public transportation. On public transportation, in public areas such as restaurants, wherever it may be, if the cases are dire and if, like I said, vaccination rates are low and not many people are protected, then I definitely think we should be able to adapt and adjust.
I understand your argument, Marisa. However, in terms of the BA.2 variant, we're still not quite sure how this works, the specific strain of the Omicron. And also in terms of public transportation, especially on airplanes, there's very little ventilation. People are going from place to place. You don't know what the vaccination rates are like from that place necessarily, or where people went. And for people who are vulnerable, like you mentioned, with underlying diseases or illnesses or conditions, sometimes, especially when they're on a plane, they need to go to some kind of treatment, they need to go to a certain area. So personally, in the public, out in the open, I have less of a problem with it. But in terms of airplanes or trains or something where there's very little ventilation, I think it's incredibly important to ensure that everyone keeps their mask on, especially since you don't know if the person next to you is vaccinated. And that piece of information can be very important to some people or some of the passengers on that plane or train or something. But yeah, so although I disagree a little bit with your point, I understand what you're saying for the most part. In local news, USC students and faculty are standing up for longtime custodian Francisca Trigueros, who was arrested in suspicion of felony grand theft on March 15th. The 61-year-old has been working as a custodian at the university for over 24 years. The psychology department and USC claims that Trigueros had been working with the department for years without any past incidents raising questions. The incident started when Trigueros was working in the Sealy G Mud building when she came across a backpack which allegedly contained large amounts of cash unfortunate. Trigueros proceeded to take the backpack to the department, lost and found, but was unable to find an employee, so she locked it in the janitor's closet for safekeeping. Later, the owner of the backpack, who was still identified, filed a police report for their missing item. So, what I think is a very interesting move is that Trigueros' pay was actually suspended during the investigation. And I do appreciate how the USC faculty members and staff decide to fend for her and say, hey, this whole situation isn't right. And if I'm correct, I believe over 50 members want to fight for her. And so, for example, Twyla Ponton said that Trigueros gives her items when they're misplaced, but during that time, she happened to be out on vacation. So the issue is I don't really know what else she could have done with that bag. She wanted to give it to the person who she was supposed to give it to. They were out, right? So what else could she really do with that? So I don't see why this became a situation in the first place. How is she supposed to know how much money there was in that bag?
And I wasn't clear in reading the article that we read from the USC students who covered the story. It's happening on their campus, and so they're obviously actively covering it. And we were going to have that guest on the show, but he was unable to make it. So maybe we'll be able to have him on the show for at a later date with any updates. But what was unclear to me, and even according to the article, was whether or not she actually looked in the backpack. They said that they saw her on camera, quote, in the act of it. So what does that mean? You know, that can be interpreted very broadly. What does that mean? Did she open the backpack and see there was money in it, or did she just take the backpack? Regardless, she never took it off the campus. She left it on the campus. So, you know, what's unclear is whether or not her intent was to steal this backpack and to permanently deprive this person of their belonging, or she was just putting it in there for safekeeping. So I think that that's a very important element that has been missed or, you know, hasn't been made clear. But also we're looking at somebody who has been there for over 20 years, has a track record of turning in items to the same person. That person was out. So we have to look at the different variables here. You know, there's a lot of different elements to the story. I think that we can't really speculate a lot because we don't know all of the facts, but what we do know is that she has now retained an attorney and cannot speak on it herself. So
yeah, like you said, there's a lot with this case that we don't know about, and we don't know if anything was even taken out of the backpack at all. So, and we don't know if there was any security footage also of her attempting, like we said, to go to Lost and Found before she went to the custodial closet to return it, because we know she has before time and time again. Like you said, I am really happy, though, to hear that faculty and staff are backing her in this because they know her track record and they know the kind of person she is. If, like I said, we know that nothing's been taken out of the backpack and she hasn't looked in it and she did everything she could. I know some faculty also reported that they would have done the same thing because local classrooms in the buildings remain unlocked during the days. So like you, Amanda, me personally, I'm not sure what else could have been done. I think if I was in her position, I personally would have probably done the same thing.
Exactly.
Like I said, that being said, if I didn't know it was in the backpack, but we know she has a track record of doing the right thing, returning these items where it needs to go so that it can go back to these students. So I think it's a tricky situation for her, and I'm really sad to hear that this 64-year-old woman who's been working at this institution isn't really being backed by the university, and that they're really not doing a lot for her or looking into it more and wanting some answers from the police department as to what they really know and what really happened.
And what happened to, you know, innocent until proven guilty also? And we also don't know whether the person who filed the report, the owner of the backpack, is actually pressing charges. And it would be interesting to know whether the DA can still move forward with charges against this woman if the person is not pressing charges, if they said, okay, it was found and I have all of my belongings in the backpack. So it is interesting. And this is actually, you know, the bigger picture here is very severe. I mean, if somebody can work at a university, it could be this university for 24 years, have a track record of being an honest, good employee, and then to be treated as if you were a criminal all along. I mean, what does that say? Because that can happen anywhere, you know? So we really have to be really careful about that and do our due diligence in finding out the facts. Yeah. It's very important.
Either way, we will keep you all updated with any new developments. On our campus now, graduation is just around the corner, and many Titans are getting ready to walk the stage this spring to reap all the benefits of all of their hard work. Graduating seniors are purchasing their cap and gowns, as well as other accessories at the Titan bookstore, or last week during GradFest. things are looking different this semester, as CSUF graduates were not able to walk the stage or had limited tickets for their guests in the past years. This year, graduates can invite up to 8 guests instead of 2, and Titans will just have to register through their student portal to claim their tickets before the deadline of April 22nd. Aside from tickets, Cal State Fullerton has announced all commencement dates, times, and set locations for all departments in which the ceremonies will take place, starting with the College of Education on May 23rd and finishing strong with the College of Communications on May 26th. There will be COVID restrictions during the commencement, as graduates and guests will have to show proof of vaccination status or a negative COVID test within 48 hours to attend. Again, congratulations to all graduating seniors for all your hard work, and here at The Report, we wish you so much luck with your future endeavors. For more updates on graduation, you can check your student email or go to www.fullerton.edu/commencement. You can also follow CSUF on Instagram.
That's so exciting.
I know, it's really exciting. I know for me personally, I graduate next spring, but the time has already seemed to flow by. I know COVID and being online definitely helped with that. It made it seem to go by a lot quicker, but it's still something to be excited about. And just to look back on the past years, it's been such a journey.
Yeah, I agree, and I am graduating. I'm walking next month, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited because my kids will be able to be there with me. And I started here at Cal State Fullerton in 2020 and ended up having to withdraw because that was right when when COVID hit during the spring. So I withdrew, and so it was really a rough start. So now sitting here and having gone through everything I've gone through and getting ready to walk, it's such a great feeling. But it's good to know, though, that there are going to be COVID restrictions where we have to have the test or the vaccination card. So that's an important point, Titans, to keep that in mind. And what about you, Amanda?
First of all, I'm so excited for you. Congratulations. It's coming up so soon. And also, same as you, Marisa, I won't be graduating until spring 2023. And when I was younger, I thought, I just want to get over with, I just want college to just finish. That way I can just go out into the real world and have my job. But now I think I'm going to miss all of my friends that I've met here, my professors. And so while I will be excited when that time comes closer, I'm a little bit scared too. But here's to hoping that everything ends up all right.
And I know it will. So I'm excited. I'm excited for both of you too. You will be in this position very soon, and it's an overwhelming position, but it also is such a great feeling to be finally done. So.
We're gonna miss you here at The Report.
I'm gonna miss you guys,
studio.
but I know I'm gonna be leaving it in really good hands. So I'm not worried about it at all. So you guys will be just fine. So. And with that, that's all the time we have today on The Report. Thank you for having me as guest host today. And Jessica will be back to join these ladies next week to update you on the latest news, views, and info. I'm Kris Adler.
I'm Amanda Mendoza.
And I'm Marisa Flores. As always, Titans, keep your tests up and your heads held high. Until next time.